Daniel Hartman was a man who had it all, at least, that's what everyone thought. As the CEO of Hartman Industries, a company his grandfather had built from the ground up, he was respected, feared, and envied in equal measure. Tall, with a sharp jawline and always dressed in tailored suits, Daniel commanded attention wherever he went. But behind his polished exterior, he carried a weight that few could see. Each day, Daniel walked into his office on the top floor of the sleek glass building that bore his family's name. He would greet his secretary with a nod, glance at the day's schedule, and then dive into back-to-back meetings. The demands of the company consumed him, leaving little time for anything, or anyone, else. Despite the endless praise and admiration he received, Daniel felt a growing emptiness inside. His life was a series of routines, with no spark, no joy. On the other side of the building, hidden from the grand offices and conference rooms, was Clara. Clara was a cleaning lady, and she loved her job, not because it was easy, but because it allowed her to take care of her son, Leo. Clara had come to the city with dreams of a better life after her husband passed away. Though life hadn't been kind to her, Clara always faced each day with a smile. Her son was her world, and every mop of the floor, every empty trash can was a step closer to giving him the life she had promised him. One rainy evening, long after the office had emptied, Daniel stayed late, reviewing some important documents. He was exhausted and frustrated, unable to focus on the work in front of him. Deciding to clear his head, he wandered down the hall and found himself in one of the lesser-used break rooms. As he entered, he noticed someone humming softly. It was Clara, wiping down the counters with her usual gentle touch. Clara looked up and smiled. "Good evening, sir. Working late?" Daniel was taken aback by her kindness. He wasn't used to people speaking to him so casually, without the usual fear or reverence. "Yes, I suppose I am," he replied, surprised at the warmth in his own voice. Clara nodded and continued her work. It must be tiring, being in charge of everything. Daniel found himself lingering, drawn to her simple words. "It is. Sometimes, it feels like no matter what I do, it's never enough." Clara paused and looked at him thoughtfully. "You know, my son Leo says that when you do your best, that's all anyone can ask for." Maybe he's right. Daniel was struck by the sincerity in her voice. It had been a long time since anyone had spoken to him without an agenda, without trying to impress him. He nodded and thanked her, feeling a little lighter as he returned to his office. The next day, and the day after that, Daniel found himself looking out for Clara. He would pass by her in the hallways or see her in the break room, always with a smile on her face. They began to exchange small conversations, about the weather, about Leo, about life. These brief interactions became the highlight of Daniel's day, and he found himself thinking about Clara even when she wasn't around. As weeks passed, their conversations grew longer and more personal. Daniel shared stories about his own childhood, about his father's strictness and his mother's distance. Clara listened, never judging, always offering a kind word or a piece of wisdom. In return, Clara opened up about her struggles as a single mother, her fears for Leo's future, and the dreams she still held on to. One day, Clara didn't show up. Daniel noticed immediately, and when she was still absent the next day, he began to worry. He asked around and found out that Clara's son had fallen ill, and she had taken time off to care for him. Without hesitation, Daniel sent one of the company cars to pick her up from her modest apartment and bring her to the best hospital in the city. He paid for all the medical expenses, ensuring Leo received the best care possible. When Clara found out what Daniel had done, she was overwhelmed with gratitude. She had always known Daniel was a good man, but this act of kindness touched her deeply. "Thank you, Mr. Hartman," she said, tears in her eyes. "I don't know how I'll ever repay you." Daniel shook his head. "There's nothing to repay, Clara. I just wanted to help." Their bond grew stronger after that. Daniel began to see Clara as more than just a friend. He admired her strength, her resilience, and the love she had for her son. Clara, too, found herself drawn to Daniel, not because of his wealth or power, but because of the kindness he had shown her and Leo. But not everyone was happy about their growing closeness. Daniel's family, particularly his father, Charles Hartman, who had retired but still held significant influence in the company, disapproved of his relationship with Clara. "She's just a cleaning lady, Daniel," Charles scoffed during a tense family dinner. "You're the CEO of Hartman Industries. You have a responsibility to this family, to this company. You can't be seen fraternizing with the help." Daniel felt his anger rise but kept his voice calm. "Clara is not just a cleaning lady. She's a person, a good person, and she's my friend." Charles shook his head. "You're blinded by this woman. She's after your money, your status. Can't you see that?" Daniel stood up, his fists clenched. "You're wrong, Dad. Clara doesn't care about any of that. She's the most genuine person I've ever met, and I won't let you or anyone else tell me who I can or can't be friends with." The tension between Daniel and his family only grew from there. Rumors started circulating within the company, fueled by jealous colleagues and disapproving family members. But Daniel didn't care. He had finally found someone who saw him for who he truly was, not just the CEO or the wealthy heir, but Daniel, the man. However, their relationship faced its greatest challenge when a scandal broke out within the company. A group of senior executives had been involved in fraudulent activities, and the news threatened to destroy Hartman Industries' reputation. The media pounced on the story, and soon, Daniel found himself in the middle of a public relations nightmare. As the pressure mounted, Daniel began to pull away from Clara. He didn't want her to get caught up in the mess, didn't want her to be dragged down by the chaos surrounding him. Clara noticed the change immediately. She could see the weight of the situation crushing him, and it broke her heart to see him suffer. One evening, Clara went to Daniel's office, determined to talk to him. She found him sitting at his desk, staring blankly at the pile of papers in front of him. "Daniel," she said softly, closing the door behind her. "What's going on? Why are you shutting me out?" Daniel looked up, his eyes filled with a sadness Clara hadn't seen before. "I'm sorry, Clara. I don't want you to get hurt. Everything is falling apart, and I can't drag you into this." Clara walked over to him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You don't have to protect me, Daniel. I'm here because I care about you, not because of what you have or who you are. I want to stand by you, through the good and the bad." Daniel looked at her, his heart swelling with emotion. He had been pushing her away out of fear, out of a desire to shield her from the chaos. But in doing so, he had forgotten that Clara was stronger than he had ever realized. With Clara's support, Daniel faced the crisis head-on. He worked tirelessly to uncover the truth, to bring the guilty parties to justice, and to restore the company's reputation. It was a long and grueling process, but with Clara by his side, he found the strength to keep going. In the end, the truth came out, and the company was saved. The executives involved were held accountable, and Daniel's leadership was praised for turning the situation around. But more importantly, Daniel realized that true success wasn't about wealth or power, it was about the people who stood by you, the relationships that enriched your life, and the love that made everything worthwhile. As the dust settled, Daniel and Clara's relationship deepened. They no longer had to hide their feelings or worry about what others thought. They had been through the fire together and had come out stronger on the other side. Months later, in a quiet, intimate ceremony, Daniel and Clara were married. It wasn't a grand affair, just a small gathering of close friends and family, those who had supported them through everything. As they exchanged vows, Daniel looked into Clara's eyes and knew that he had found something far more valuable than all the riches in the world. He had found love, and in that love, he had found himself. The story teaches us that true wealth is not measured by money, power, or status, but by the love and kindness we share with others. It reminds us that no matter our differences, we all have something valuable to offer, and it's the connections we make with others that truly enrich our lives. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more interesting stories.